Woof! Welcome to Two Dogs Digs, Tuesday night live hall pass. Today, we're talking about a serious subject, but we're going to hopefully be light about it, which is, what's the real cost to be a reseller? Because we see a lot of posts everywhere that talk about this costs too much, and we think there's so many things people don't consider, or there's so much sort of ill-conceived ideas about what things cost on one platform versus another. And so we thought, let's actually just dedicate a show to specifically talking about what are the costs of selling on multiple different platforms. What does it cost to sell on those platforms comparatively? And then what are all the things that you really need to think about that I bet a lot of people aren't thinking about when it comes to actually making money reselling? So I've got my better half joining me. He'll be joining me here soon. But he's rebooting the computer because, of course, the show's about to start, so the computer crashes downstairs. So a big thank you and hello to everybody who's joined us here on our Tuesday night for the Hall Pass. So last week it was spring cold, and we're talking like this. So sorry we had to bump this for a week. Next week is going to be what sold in May. And it's more of a question. What? Did something sell in May? Because it's not been a great month for us. And I know it hasn't been a great month for quite a few other people based on a post I put up in the Facebook group. Literally, this is the first weekend that Rick and I can recall, I think, in probably 2 to 3 years. Like, it literally was the weekend where we didn't sell one thin dime from Friday at 5 o'clock until Monday afternoon. Not one Saturday or Sunday. Not a $10 sale. Not nothing. Buckus, as I said with the Charlie Brown thing, I got a rock. It was a terrible, terrible weekend. And our deposit for last week's sales for eBay was, again, it would make you want to cry. Our numbers are down that far, well below 50%. So hopefully you guys may be having a little bit better time in the month of May, although I know some of you are not having, it's not been a fun month. Now, May and June are usually pretty bad months. And I'll bring Rick on to talk about that, aren't they? May and June are usually pretty bad months for us in selling.
Yes, it slows right down.
Traditionally, even during COVID, May and June were not great months. I'm not sure exactly why. Lots of people have different rationale behind it. Like, it's all about the tax season and when rebates are coming and end of school and the beginning of summer and people. I don't have a real reason for it. I just know that it's all 25, 26, 28, 30 years on eBay. May and June always suck. So as long as you're prepared for that and maybe try to do something that helps you through the month. So for us, what ended up helping us through the month, Rick, was what?
Huh? Oh, Max sold.
Yeah.
I actually listened to you.
You were listening.
In a timely fashion.
Thank you. Yeah. We actually had two Max sold sales this past month. So we sold almost.
Damn near killed me.
Huh?
Damn near killed me too.
It did not. Almost $2,500 in sales from the two Max sold. So we took most of the month off of Whatnot, but at least we were able to look at other platforms. And that's the thing we always say is making sure you're looking at other platforms. But even when you're looking at all those other platforms, you got to consider what is truly the real cost of reselling. So before we get into that, I'm just going to say a big hello to everybody who has joined us here. Hey, Tina's here, Diana, Kendra, Janet, Michael, Kathy, Susan. Hey, Greg is watching. Mr. Adrian there. Adrian has said, yeah, what are your real profits? Not this month. Slowest in ages. Holly. Hey, Susie the Foodie. Candace, Charmaine, Brian. Hey, Heather and Bob. The real cost is sanity. That's very true.
What is sanity?
Tina, Elisa? Wasn't sure there was a show tonight. Yeah, there's a show tonight. There's a show next week. There won't be a show in 2 weeks because Rick booked tickets for us without talking to me.
I had a plan.
We're going to see Wicked, the play, the musical, and he booked so let's see. Sanity is overrated. It's very, very true. You're getting a lot of truth on that one. That's very true. And Lisa's here. Hello. Yeah, not great for you. It was a holiday weekend. Yeah, holiday weekends can sometimes work, though. That's just it. It's really weird. Kendra says terrible here. Week for Greg. And Greg's got thousands of books. So like when he says it, when you got people like that say week, then you know when people have thousands of items listed. Jennifer's all my platforms have been awful.
You said week and Doug said woof.
So
you said speak.
Doug's saying woof. So but yeah, it's been a challenging month. But again, when that's one of the reasons we also talk about when you have a challenging month, if you're relying on your business model to be a single business model, you can be challenged with things. And I'm gonna be really bad. I'm gonna call out one witch lady on this just to let as an example, because as an example, one witch lady does a lot of stuff on Facebook, but I've seen, I know I'm terrible. She doesn't even know I'm gonna say this, so she may not like me anymore. I've seen the same item being renewed by her on Facebook like 10 times. It hasn't sold. But right now, she's not trying to go on any other platform. She might be on eBay. You'll have to answer that, Diane. I'm not sure. So sorry if I'm calling you out on that. But when you are on one platform and you hit a bad patch, it can really hurt, especially if you're relying on that money to come in from somewhere else. No, he cannot hit that high note. And yeah, Charmaine, we've actually seen it. I don't even know how many times. 7? Rick? 7 times? Wicked?
Sorry, that's frozen.
Oh. How many times have we seen Wicked?
Probably 8.
7 or 8. So
and
we saw it in New York.
I know when we're in the car and I'm using my full falsetto. Craig cannot stand it when I do that voice, though. So.
Well, we actually, when we just a little side, when we saw Wicked the first time, we did see it originally 20 years ago. That's how long ago Wicked started on Broadway. I think it was 2002. I think 2003. But we were down there, and I had bought tickets to Wicked for. Oh, thank you, Diana says I still love you. We bought tickets for Wicked. And then they had a lottery where you could actually get front row tickets for $20. And so we had tickets for like the Thursday night at 8:00. And we went and decided for the hell of it, let's go to try and do the lottery for $20. And I got picked for the lottery. And so we had front row center seats on the Wednesday. I think it was the Wednesday matinee, wasn't it?
Matinee, yeah.
And so we saw the show and we said, well, this is great. We'll just sell our tickets for tomorrow night. We loved it so much. We went back the next night. So we just saw the show twice in 2 days. Hey, Cameron. Hello. Yeah, we do like Wicked. And he booked it on Tuesday. He just booked the best seats. And then last week we were talking and I said, when are we going to see Wicked? He goes, oh yeah, we should look up when our tickets are. And I went, you put it on a Tuesday night. He goes, oh. So we might do a show on the Wednesday of that week. Maybe I'll do a Baggy Wall Haul instead.
I don't pay attention. So.
Yeah, and a lottery in New York City. A lot of the Broadway shows have lotteries for the front row or the front 2 rows, or Rent used to do it when it was there for like $10, I think, for seats in the front 2 rows. Hamilton would do it. So a lot of those, the most popular shows save like a row. And then you go with like 200 people and put your name in, and they literally draw your name. You have to stand there, and they draw your name like an hour beforehand.
I think that it was like at noon. You could go to the theater box office, sign up for the lottery. They'd make the draw by 1, and the show.
And then you could go away for 45 minutes, and then you have to come back to the show. Yeah. So, hey, Don. Everybody, Catherine, Don's mom, is her birthday today.
Oh, happy birthday, Catherine.
Oh, that would be fun. Seeing The Princess Bride hosted by Carrie Elwes next weekend. That would be a lot of fun, and probably a lot more fun than seeing Jaws hosted by Richard Dreyfuss.
I was just going to say.
You don't know about that? Now it's like
Why?
I can't watch Jaws anymore. I can't I can't watch The Goodbye Girl. I can't watch, strangely enough, the remake of Poseidon, where he plays a gay man. But still.
Mhm.
Anyway, but today we're not talking about that. We're talking about the real cost of reselling. So the thing I think what I wanted to do the most on this was basically chat about the fact that a lot of people look at this, and the first thing that we see mainly on a lot of Facebook groups when you see people talking, because that's the place that a lot of people talk. Sometimes you see it on an individual, like on a TikTok or an Instagram like reel, where somebody's like, "Oh my God, the cost of reselling. eBay is so expensive," and that's the one platform that I think people scream the most, that eBay is so darn expensive, and where's the other platforms we can go to? Well, there's a few things that we need to think about when we're talking about all the different platforms. And the main thing is that there are, yeah, you did. Hey, Shanna, from Mississauga, yay. Is what is the real cost? So I put this stuff together, and I'm going to take you through pages to show you what they are. So let's just start with the big whale in the room. A lot of people want to know about selling on eBay. Now, the prices that a lot of the stuff that we're going to talk to you about today, when we're talking about the cost of selling, in this case, the cost of listing, there are so many different things that you can do in addition to the normally see that you might do with listing on various platforms. We're going to try and cover a little bit of that today, but generally we just want to start people getting into their head, this is what it's going to cost me. And here's what I like, literally, this is my big template for that. This is what I want you to think about when it comes to anything that you are selling on any platform, anywhere. I want you to think 17%. What a weird number, you say. How did you 17%? Well, you'll see how I got to it, but basically, that's what I want you to do. I want you to think that whatever my selling price is, 17% of it goes into the platform that I sell on. Not all the other things, not the cost, but the platform that you actually are selling on. Oh, Susan changed her name. She's now Susan instead of Spinsby. Oh, and she's in vacation in Mexico. Very nice.
Hola. Dos cervezas, por favor.
Now, Cameron is doing a video in the morning with the haul from, I don't know what this means, eBay Camp 2024. I do not know what Camp is. I know what camp is, but I don't know what Camp is. So let's start with eBay, since it's the platform everybody talks about. Now, first things first, let's understand eBay is the number one reselling platform in the world. It's getting caught up. It has about almost double the amount of buyers that buy on it versus the next closest, which is Etsy. It has the most sellers. Even people are bailing on it. They are using it's like the most. So it is the highest, and despite all the problems that people may have with it as a platform, the listings, how do I do my insertions, what are all the item specifics, all of these different things, there's lots of ways that you can tighten it so it doesn't take a lot to list on eBay. Using crosslist magic is one of them. But it is the biggest platform. So whenever I see people saying, I need to try and sell something in any Facebook group I'm in, then the first thing I say to them is, you should be looking at eBay. The first comment I get back is, eBay's too expensive. Tell me something else. Well, it's not too expensive. So let me just take you through what it is. So basically, the basic fee. And so any of the things that I'm telling you here are so easy for you to find out. And I swear to God, it's as easy as this. You go to Google, and in Google, you type eBay fees. And look, it takes you to a page that says, this is what eBay fees are. Like, that's pretty well. So you can do this with any of the platforms. But so this is what we're going to talk about first, eBay fees. So we're not talking about the cost of having a store. This is just if you happen to be a person who wants to list on eBay. Just recently, they moved it up. So most categories, including trading cards, collector, and eBay Motors, it costs 13.25% on something you sell. So we're going to keep using $100 as our example here. So on a $100 item that you sell, it would be 13.25%. But it's not just the price of the item. That 13.25% is also calculated on any shipping and on any taxes. And again, the reason that eBay does that is because they are collecting. People always say they shouldn't be doing that. No, they are collecting and remitting all of those taxes on your behalf as a seller. And all the platforms, when they're charging you that, they're charging you a fee. They are the ones we don't have to worry as resellers now about selling into all sorts of different states that have different state, municipal, or federal or provincial taxes or anything like that. You don't have to think about anything because they're the ones who are remitting it all on your behalf. So I have no problem in paying 13% on the tax amount. So if it's $6 tax on a $100 item, I'd rather pay eBay 13% of that to take care of that than have to take care of that by myself. Right? So that's the first thing, is it's 13.25%. And then if you sell something really big, it's only 2.35% on top of that. If you're doing books, it's more expensive, 15%. If you're doing coins, it's 13.25. If you're doing handbags, it's 15%.
A handbag?
A handbag. If you're doing watches, it's 15%. So you can sort of see, again, I'm just talking about that's the final value fee that you actually have to look at. Now, not only are you paying a final value fee, but you are also going to be paying, let's see if there's not in there. You're also going to be paying on eBay the fee for, where's my slide? Where's my other slide? You're going to be paying the fee for conversion if you're advertising and you're Canadian and it's a US sale. If you advertise on .com, you're going to pay a conversion fee. You're going to pay a processing fee, and the processing fee is usually anywhere from 30 to 40 cents for that. So there's little extra fees that get tagged onto there. If on eBay you are doing something that is promoted listings or any of those things, then that rate goes higher and higher up. So to give you an example, I'm just going to show you this one right now, is if you did a $100 item and it had $10 worth of actual taxes on it, you're going to pay 13.25% on $110. That's like $15. So if you're trying, that's why I always say the 17%. Don't think about 13.25 because you're paying $15 on the $100, because all you care about as a seller is this is what I sold it for. I sold it for $100. You're not collecting the tax and keeping it. You're not collecting the shipping and keeping it. You're collecting just the amount. So that's $100. So a 15%, $15 is 15%. Plus a couple of the other exchange fees or any of those things start adding up, and it ends up that you get closer to 17 or so percent without you actually having to do promoted listings or do sales or anything where you're bumping up that. I know it's a lot. That's why I go to just talk about 17%. Just think about that sort of thing in your head. But again, I wanted to show this for people. Yes, there's all these little things. Yeah, as Lisa says, if you have a store, you're going to be paying for the store, and you've got to amortize that over your total listings. If you have over 250 items and you don't have a store, you're going to pay a listing fee. So that's why I'm saying all these things move in a little bit and a little bit more. No, that's not true, Adrian. Even if you have a US dollar account, you still pay a conversion. You still pay an international fee. It's not a conversion fee, but you do pay an international fee.
Yeah, the point that we're trying to make is that we want you to think about the fees that you will be incurring in your situation for whatever items you're listing on whatever platform. pay attention to all of the fees, because it's important to understand what you're going to be required to give up as a portion of the profit that you're making from an item.
And the reason that we're going to tell you about that is because we just got surprised by a fee on Etsy. And it was a surprise, wasn't it, Rick? It was a surprise.
Yeah, preparing for the show tonight, I was looking at our Etsy.
Don't give too much away.
Huh?
Don't give too much away, because they're going to be showing it.
I was looking at our Etsy monthly statement, and I looked at what we brought in versus the fees we paid, and I was like, oh, that seems really high. So I did a little further breakdown, and we discovered that there was a fee that we were charged that we didn't think that we had. We're going to be charged.
So let's take a look at Etsy. So Etsy is, again, so Etsy is probably the second, well, it is the second highest platform for users. It's growing. But it's a different platform. And this is, again, one of the reasons that we always say, depending upon what you're selling, if you're selling newer items, if you're selling automotive parts, maybe Etsy isn't the best place for you. But if you're selling, like a lot of us, or random resellers, that could be anything that's 20 years old, which, again, that's 2000. Vintage is 2004 now.
Yes.
It makes me sad. A Twigster, yes, that's just it. They can go higher depending on all the different things. That's why we want people to keep that in mind when you're looking at all these things. And I'm going to show you this one. This is the one that killed us. But for Etsy, it's pretty simple. The way they actually charge is they charge a 20% listing fee for every item, and it's up there for 4 months, and then it gets charged again. So there's a fee. Even if you want to have a store, you set up a store, there's a setup fee of $15, but just pretend you're set up there. Then the transaction fee is 6.5%. This is just generally, it's a 6.5% fee if you happen to be if you sell something on Etsy. But that's not the only fee. In terms of, on top of that, you have to pay a processing fee of 3%, just like PayPal, of 3%. So they dig at you in all these little different ways. So eBay has their 3%, 2.9%, or whatever. Etsy has 3% plus 25 cents per item. So now we're talking about something that's 9.5%, right? Not only is it 9.5%, but if you happen to be somebody who is Canadian like us, but you list in US dollars, because that's what we do. We don't like listing in Canadian dollars. I'll do a show about that, or a little mini thing about that in a couple of weeks. You're paying another 2.5%. So now we're already up to 12% on Etsy, the place that everybody thinks is 6%. It's like, no, it's not. 12.5%. Now, not only that, but you actually may have done something like we did, which is we didn't realize that we were part of Etsy's off-site ads. So Etsy's platform tries to send out ads to everybody on all sorts of different places. When someone's searching for on Google, if they happen to look up Pee Wee Herman, or they look up Golden Queen, there's the Google ads that come up. Etsy pays for those. If somebody clicks on one of those and buys your item, you pay 15% more on top of the 6.5% and the 3% and the 2.5%. So it just keeps adding up. So I'm going to show you the one that we just went, what the heck? What happened here? So this is our Etsy page, and I'm going to go into orders. No, it's not in there. Where is it? I lost the page, Rick, where that was. Where do we have it again? Was it orders?
Finances.
Oh, finances. That's it.
And then monthly statements.
Monthly statement. So here's our monthly statement for May, and this is what I want to show you. So these are listing fees. But take a look at this. We sold this Cabbage Patch Kid. I make this a little smaller. We sold this Cabbage Patch Kid, and it's like really nice because we sold the Cabbage Patch Kid, we thought for like $125 or something like that, and we were like, wow, we made so much money. Well, no, we didn't. Here's $144. Now, let's take a look at all of the fees we paid. We paid 3% of the order plus 25 cents. There was sales tax that they collected and remitted. Here's our 6.5% that we thought, well, that's what we are paying. So there's that, as I said, there's a 6.5 and there's that 3%. So there's the 9 that we were paying. But guess what? This was sold through offsite ads and we paid another 15% of the order. $20 extra. $20 extra. I'm going to show you, Kendra, how do you opt out? I'm going to show you in just a second how you opt out because we just did.
I didn't think we were ever opted in.
I forgot. I thought we were opted out. Then we got taxed. Then we got tax. Then we got a processing fee. This is all on the same item, folks. So we ended up having like 30 some odd dollars on a $140 item. So yeah, that was closer to 25+% that we were charged by Etsy. Now the 2.5% is on top of that because we get charged that when we get our money converted and deposited to it.
No, and because it was over $35, we offered free shipping.
And yes, we did, which also
and that damn doll was
we ended up making like $20 on a doll that cost us $100 that we cost us like $5, but we thought that we would make $100 and some odd dollars on.
Yeah, it turns out I think we made 70.
So here's what you have to do. And again, this is easy to do. I'm going to show you it quickly, but just go in and put opt out of offsite ads on Etsy, and then it will take you to a page that looks. I lost that page. You have to go to your settings page, and then you have to go down here to offsite ads, and it's like, don't do it. And then you can turn on or turn off here. So this is when like turn on. So we're on, that was what it was, or opt out. So we have opted out. Now, the thing again to remember is the way that Etsy is working, that's pushing stuff out there for people to see, which is nice. But if you don't want to do it, don't. You can also do, and again, this is also where things add up. You can do your own advertising ads. So you can push your own ads out. And again, that's going to cost you money. But it's just, as you see, you're adding and adding. So now all of a sudden we had one item that has like a 35% fee on it instead of the 6.5% for Etsy. And that's what people focus on in the Facebook group. Somebody will say it's 6.5% for Etsy. It's like, no, it's 6.5 plus this. But if you sell $10,000, you can't opt out. You're automatically put into that category.
But the percentage allow you to down to 12%, like Lisa.
Yes, instead of a 15% fee, it's 12% fee. But what I didn't realize, you didn't actually. I didn't see anything that said this sale was from an offsite ad. It's the same with eBay. We don't see that this ad was from promoted until your fees already come through. Probably had your biggest sale of the year in the 2 seconds you opted in. Well, no, actually, we did have a bigger sale than that. Yes, Etsy does charge you even if the ads don't sell. They're just click-through ads. But again, it's all money that keeps coming in. Do you need to opt out of eBay as well? Well, no, eBay doesn't charge you for when they're pushing their stuff out there. So when they do their Google ads, that's all covered. You don't have to worry about it. Etsy, though, you really should think about that, though. That is a huge turnoff. But again, yeah, Lisa's saying, I don't mind this. It brings you sales. But
actually, I'm with Lisa. I don't mind it if an ad actually brings a sale that we might not have had otherwise.
One of the things about Etsy as well is if you advertise, and this is the reason that Rick always hates it, if you advertise with something for $35 US and offer free shipping, Etsy does push those ads out without any extra cost, from what I understand. But the free shipping is what. So I just look at it and go, if I was going to sell something for $25 and charge them $10 for shipping, I put it at $35 with free shipping, and then it gets promoted. And we do see promotions work like that.
Yeah, I hate free shipping. I hate
I
subsidized
never saw, I
shipping.
didn't see that. We didn't see that at all. Just so, like, again, it's not something we looked for. Yeah, breathing easy. You don't need to throw more money than eBay. No, but again, you might be throwing money there, and then you might be throwing money to some place that everybody says is so cheap. Poshmark. Guess what? Poshmark's one of the most expensive platforms that there is. For all sales under $15, Poshmark takes $2.95. That is 20%. And for all sales over $15, they take 20%. So everybody says, yeah, go on Poshmark. You really should be going on Poshmark. It's a place for you to sell. It's really cheap. It's not that cheap. It, again, the issue I have personally with Poshmark as a platform is Poshmark Canada and Poshmark US do not share the audience. Etsy, your ads go to the people in the US. Every item you have is seen in the States. In eBay, if you are even only typing in on eBay Canada, unless you don't put in international shipping, you can be seen in the States. Poshmark, you are poshmark.ca. You can only sell within Canada. You can only ship within Canada. You don't get you get people sharing your closet and following you from all over the States, but they can't buy from you. So, and they've been talking about fixing that for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, but they don't have a listing fee.
They don't have a listing fee, but yeah, it's still 20%.
Yeah.
So again, what are you thinking? I want you to think 17%. If depending on where you're going. So we got eBay has its little 13, 14% plus 3% plus 2%. Etsy's now 6.5 plus 3%. If it's an offsite ad, and you didn't opt out, it could be 15% more. So again, think 15, think 17, think 20% of anything that you send that.
Yeah, and my suggestion.
That's a perfect example, Brian. I found out about the 20% the hard way. $100 sale and the profit was 80, and you're like, how the hell did I only make 80?
But what did you pay for that $100 item? You have to take that off too. And other things. We'll get to that later.
Yeah. Elise says, I don't like how you can add the cost of free shipping, like the 35 and 25. But what about when you need to set a discount or a price reduction? You lose that amount again. Yeah, that becomes a challenge as well. Yeah, if you're putting it in there at 35 exactly, so you get that extra push. Kendra saying, Post office told me the other day they only allow paper items through letter mail, no DVDs, etc. Not sure if this is new. We're still trying to figure that out. Somebody else made a comment about not being able to send postcards in the craft group, that they were coming back from Canada Post.
I don't know if they were international or domestic.
No, they said it was like to the US, but it was coming. It was they were sending it in a letter mail envelope, and they were getting them coming back saying it had to go via something else. But again, that's more shipping oriented versus fee oriented. Now, I wanted to talk about some other platforms just to have people get an idea. So Facebook itself, we'll talk about that in a second. But Whatnot, we sell on that, and Whatnot fees. Now, Whatnot fees generally can be considered pretty good. Again, if you just look at the top line, and again, don't just look at the top line. It's 8% commission, and then 2.9% to pay the processing plus 30 cents. Everybody gets you on this 2.9% and 30 cents. So like that extra 3% that everybody gets you on. So that sounds like that's a great thing. That's 11%. The only problem is if you sell something on there, which a lot of people do on Whatnot, for $1 or $2, 30 cents to have that transaction processes is 30%, which means on very low dollar volume items like $1 and $2 and $3 sales, you're actually paying 25 to 55% commission or fees. And again, this is just the cost of selling on the platforms. This does not count about anything else at all. That's Whatnot. Depop's another platform some people like. We used to be on it. We aren't any longer. It's pretty simple. It's the same thing. It's down here. It's a 10% fee for Depop. And then they have a transaction fee of 2.9% and 30 cents. Like, so anytime you see a fee, add 3% to it because it's probably going to be the cost of the processing. Etsy does it. Depop does it. PayPal or Poshmark doesn't. Etsy does it. Depop does it. What did I just say? Whatnot does it. So eBay, they all do it. They all add those kind of things in. So there's just another fee that you have to look at. And then just generally, and this is what I was saying about Facebook. Facebook itself is a great platform. And if you're looking to not spend money, Facebook is actually the platform that you need to consider. Because Facebook has, if you go and sell in Facebook groups, and this is the tricky thing, not through Facebook, but sell through Facebook groups, and then you go and use PayPal, you will only pay 2.9%.
Plus 30 cents.
Plus 30 cents. For PayPal goods and services when you are covering that off as a seller. Now, and that's what I like about selling in Facebook groups. I just sold something yesterday and I posted it and it sold in less than, I think, half an hour. And it was a $35 item.
Less than half an hour, too.
Huh?
It was paid within less than half an hour.
It was paid within less than half an hour. Yeah. So that person, it was a $40 sale, $35 plus $5 shipping, and US. And so it ended up that our whole fee on that is going to be 3%. So 3% on $35 or $40 is only going to end up costing us $1.20. If I put the same thing on eBay and I sold it for $35, which is where I'd be listing, I'd be paying 17%, 20%, that sort of thing. So that's the thing to keep in mind when you're looking at the fees. Because again, that's the big thing, it's the fees. Now, I'm going to go back over here because I did see some people making comments again more about the postage or sort of thing. Let's see. Lisa said, anything outside of Canada needs to go as a parcel. Well, there's some things that aren't supposed to do, like you should be able to send, like the most recent one, Lisa, was somebody who sent a postcard, but they put a postcard into an envelope and they were told, it came back and they were told that couldn't be sent that way. It had to be sent as small packet. There, flip that. Anything letter post to the States, that's a commercial transaction. I don't know how they check that. That's my big thing there, is how are they knowing that that's a commercial transaction if I'm sending something from me and it's just in a white envelope? It could be a birthday card if it happens to be a postcard. And this was what this was. Oversized letter mail. It can still ship domestically, no international mail shipping. Yeah. So again, it's one of those weird little things that goes on. I stopped selling on Facebook due to getting asked, is this still available? I will pay the fees. Well, yeah, Facebook has a lot of scammers. The Facebook groups are filled with tons of scammers. So you always have to look for trustful groups. You always look for people who are, if you are selling on them, I do the selling. I always say the price is this, and it's with PayPal goods and services protection covered. And then I cover the 3% in the fees that are there. So that's the big thing about doing that. It is a bit of a pain in the butt. Am I talking about Facebook? Yes, for private groups. And then I ship those. When we're talking about Facebook, I'm talking about finding all those groups. Anything you have, there is probably a group for it. If it's a Monopoly game, there's a group for it. If it's an Elmo thing, there's a group. If it's a Fisher Price toy, if it's a kind of doll.
Bird. An Oiva bird.
That glass bird. There's probably somebody who does that. Lisa says she sell locally on Facebook, but they've never shipped to sell in a group. Yeah, we ship to sell in groups all the time. Facebook Marketplace equals time wasters galore. Yeah. I mean, the thing. What, Rick?
That can happen, but
yeah,
it's part of that whole scene.
But Facebook Marketplace in groups versus.
We've had a lot of success with it, but I hate it, so I'm torn.
Am I selling on Facebook Marketplace in the U.S.? Well, no. I sell on Facebook Marketplace because I'm Canadian. I list in groups that may be U.S. based or maybe worldwide based or anything like that.
It's not Marketplace. It's within groups.
I also can list on Marketplace, but in some items I might, for example, we were selling something just recently. We were selling something and I put it on our local Facebook Marketplace, but I also put it in 7 other vintage groups. Vintage Sales Canada, Vintage Glass Canada, Toronto Vintage fab finds. Like I could post it in the one and all these other ones. But sometimes I literally just go to an individual group. Like the thing I posted yesterday happened to be Grand Champions horses, little toy horses. And so I went to the Grand Champions buy and sell group, and I posted it just as a discussion in the Grand Champions buy and sell group. I had somebody say, I'd love this. I'm in the UK. And I had somebody who half an hour or 15 minutes later said, if they don't want it, I'll take it. The person from the UK didn't get back to me. The person who was second in line, I sent them a thing saying, here you go, it's yours. And they sent me their address, and it paid in like 5 minutes. So, yeah, if you have local sales, that's great. And again, you could put, as long as you, I know Charmaine and Brian, you do really well with them. I know that Diana, One Witch Lady, does well with them as well. And Lisa does well with them. So a lot of people do well
through the pandemic too.
Yeah, but again, it's one of the things that we're saying there is also a way to expand your sales platforms. Is look at not
just on eBay or Etsy.
Yeah. Now Brian and Charmaine, there's a challenge; they don't have a cross-border shipper, so it might not be as easy. But for example, if you are selling something that's shippable in Canada, you might consider looking at finding a group, a Canadian group or something. So for example, I'm a Star Wars collector as well. There are Star Wars groups. There are 5 Star Wars Canadian collector groups. So I've actually sold, and we've actually advertised and sold for our max sold auctions. I had a max sold auction that I had some Star Wars things in, and I had some Hot Wheels in, and I posted those in the Canadian groups, and we sold and shipped them. People bid on ours from Edmonton. They bid on some Hot Wheels, and we shipped it to Edmonton. So it's just something to think. But that's what, again, back to the whole thing that we're talking about here. This is what it costs to sell on the platforms in general, not Facebook,
on average, yeah,
but on average 17 to 20%. I couldn't find an image that said 17 to 20, so we just put the 17 up there. But here's the thing that people don't consider. I got to find the page. What is your net return? Again, this is all about cost. What is your net return? And that's where you have to start thinking about all the other things that actually go into selling. Because this is the other thing I don't think a lot of resellers do. And sort of platform costs are one thing, 17 to 20%. But figure out all these other things. And Rick, you were going to talk a little bit about that.
Well, basically, I think the biggest investment you're making as a reseller, aside from your money, is your time. It takes time to source things. It takes time to clean them. It takes time to photograph them. It takes time to list them on whatever platform. If they sell, it takes time to pack them. It takes time to go out and get the right shipping box and the materials to pack it safely so it gets to its destination, to organize the courier or the shipping partner that you're going to use to get it to your buyer. All of that takes time. And, how are you going to factor your time as part of the cost? What do you feel your time is worth? Are you looking to make $20 an hour, $40 an hour, $50 an hour? You factor that into your numbers when you're looking at the end of the year, when you have all of the data in front of you. How much time did you spend on average every week for all of those activities? If you're a full-time reseller and you spend 30, 40 hours a week or more, good on you. We're spending less than that. But
Charmaine's comment is time is the one thing that we don't think about. And again, what Rick is trying to make sure of there is you should be thinking about those things as a reseller. And that time, as Rick said, it's all those different things. It's packed, but even the time that it takes you to thrift.
Oh, yes.
I did a challenge a few years back, and I said, I want you to go into your thrift store, but if you can't find something within 15, if you really want to stretch it, a half an hour's worth of your time in that store, and you have not found anything yet, get out. Because every 15 minutes, I know people, there's somebody I know who spends 2 to 3 hours in a store. She lives down the street from us, and she knows who we're talking about. And she can spend 2 to 3 hours in the store and then come out with nothing or come out with one thing. But the problem is that one thing that's 3 hours. Again, if you even want to only pay yourself $10 an hour, that's $30 worth of your personal time that's gone into shopping for the item. Now, you can discount a lot of that stuff that is, if you really don't want to. You don't have to think about the time for packing and the time for shipping. I know I love going to garage sales. And so I don't think about the time that I'm driving around on a Saturday going to garage sales, or these 7 or 8 hours that we're going to spend going to a garage and estate sales this Saturday as being, okay, this is going to be 7 or 8 hours. I got to make sure I find $100 worth of sellable stuff. No, I don't. I like that. I enjoy that. So I don't think about that time. But I just do want people to think about the time. The thrift stores is the one that I think is the most challenging. Is I just don't want people spending so much time in a store to walk out after an hour with one item that they're going to make or try to sell for $20. That's the thing. If you're trying to sell the one item you found at a thrift store for $20, you have taken that $20 and you got to take your 17 to 20% off that. So let's say you bought it for $5 or $4. Then you got to take that $4 off that is your cost for selling it. Now you got $8, the cost of the item and that. Well, let's just add another buck in for your box and your gas and some bubble wrap and some tape and things like that. So now we're at $9. So now you're already taking 50% of the cost that you're selling it at, and it's gone. So you made $10. Now you still have to take the pictures. You still have, like, that's what Rick and I have our biggest fights about. He spends what I consider to be way too much time taking photos. And that's something that I go, well, I just wish you'd take less time on it, but that's what he kind of enjoys doing. Time, you can't put a cost on. That being said, your time is value. Yeah, that's pretty well what I'm trying to say there now.
Well, you can put a cost on it. We know some people that actually have or that resell that have employees.
Yeah.
And they pay those employees based on their time. They pay an employee to take photos. They pay an employee to do their packing and shipping. They pay an employee to do listing. So that's where, if you are reselling, that's the kind of the difference between having a hobby that you enjoy that takes up some time in retirement, for example, or you have a business that you're trying to make money from. So that's tension at some point. Don't you think, Craigie?
Yeah.
That's the tension we have.
And here's like under the time, it's, as I said, we've got shopping. We've got the listing time. We've got inventory management time. We've got shipping time. There's a general cost of gas and wear and tear on your car. And I think a lot of like these are all things that you should think about as the costs that you're trying to build in when you're thinking about, this is what I sold it for. Now I'm trying to get you to think more so about, it's not just what you bought it for. It's what you bought it for and then what you sold it for. Now, adding to what you bought it for, there's your general costs. Adding to your general costs, there are gas, storage, staff, all those things you have to think about. Returns, things like that start adding in, so that when you're selling, and this is what we always say about selling 10 and like low dollar, $5, $10 items, you got to watch that, because if you're investing $2 or $3 and selling something for 10,
there have to be
not even be making any money on it
somewhere else.
No, you might not make a cent, right? Greg's saying the time equation changes when you're semi-retired or just old. No, that is very true. That is very true.
It does.
Now, there are a couple of comments. Taking time to research something that's worth $5. That's why, again, you do the quick research and then move on. That's why we always say if you've got a bunch of stuff, get rid of it. Don't try and list a whole bunch of things for 30 cents kind of thing. Lisa's also saying she gets shipping supplies for free. That's great, but if you don't have access to those kind of shipping supplies or you don't use recycled shipping supplies, you got to kind of factor that in. Now, what we try to do is we do what Rick calls the blobby method of figuring all this stuff out, which is we don't look at the fact that we sell this item and it will need a box. And that box cost $1.20. And so, no, we just average out that when we're doing everything, boxes for us cost about anywhere from 30 cents to $1.50, depending upon the size of the box. So in my mind, I add that into the shipping cost. So it's just something that we go, okay, I got to put $1 on every single thing, which is the box that it's going to go in. So that it's covering, again, my cost. That's the key thing. It's got to cover my costs on these things. So we don't charge a handling fee. That's one thing that some people do charge, but I know that as a buyer, it's something that makes people grumbly. So that's the other reason that when we actually are doing our shipping, we do flat rate shipping on everything, because we don't like to use calculated shipping that's supplied by eBay for that part, and on Etsy we set a rate at, and the reason we do is that we buffer it up so that we get a little bit extra money to cover off the box, to cover off the fees. All those extra little things get covered off on something, because we ain't Amazon, so I don't want to be paying all that extra. If I have to pay
cross-border shipping charge,
we have a cross-border shipping charge. But if you're in the US, you don't have that. But if you are buying boxes and that sort of thing, instead of having eBay say, here's the discounted rate that we're now telling people, this guy's giving you a discounted rate. Well, you're still getting charged as a seller the 13% on that shipping cost. So you literally either have to add in a handling fee, or you have to think to yourself, I'm not really paying 13.25%. I'm actually paying 15%. Like, again, that's why I always say, think about it as 17 to 20%. If you're lucky, you've had a booth 3 at an antique mall. I actually should talk to you, Michael. Maybe I'll have you on, and I'll have Donna on to talk sometime in the summer about doing a booth, because that's another way to actually sell. But again, we used to do a booth, but the booth we did, the costs were too much for us. Again, it came down to the fees. We weren't selling enough to pay for our booth and for our fees. So depending upon where you are, it can and can't work for you. So that's an interesting future topic that I actually was thinking about doing. I love this. I love the hunt, and one day I'll have my own minion to do the photo taking. Well, that's my minion. He's kind of stuck with it.
I have been chosen.
He has been chosen. So again, when we're talking about the shipping costs, time of staff, packing materials, boxes, tissue paper, bubble wrap, tape, again, we look at it as basically every item we sell, there's $1 of that item that's going to account for these things. So if you start thinking about it that way, $1 of my item has to cover all my shipping stuff. So if I was thinking I'm going to sell this for $10 and I paid $5, well, $1 has to cover my shipping cost. $3 is going to go to the cost, or $2 is going to go to the cost of selling it. Then all of a sudden you're down to, I'm making 60 cents on this item. Why am I doing that? Which is, again, why we talk about trying to raise the absolute amount that you're selling things for. Now, there are exceptions to this. Like, we have about 10 exceptions to this that in our own personal store. What are they, Rick?
Well, the first one, the biggest one, the best seller over the past year and a half have been shoelaces. Doc Marten shoelaces. You found 2,000 or 3,000 of them in baggies in a baggie wall haul.
No, I found a few hundred though.
Well, several hundred. And we've been selling them in pairs. So 2 pairs of shoelaces. I think you set 2 different prices. One that includes shipping or has free shipping, and one with $5 shipping. They're both selling about the same.
There's one of them right now.
But the nice thing is, we took the photographs once.
They cost 10 cents
They
now. They
cost
average out
less
as
than
5 to 10 cents.
and we're selling them so that we're making enough to cover off the cost of the bubble envelope that they get shipped in and the $4 to $5 shipping.
So you can see there, 36 sold. That's 36 sold. That's $500 in sales for this item.
Oh, and that's a relisting because we forgot to up the quantity the first time. The first 20 sold out.
So we have a few items that are like this where we've managed, luckily, to purchase a number of them. We have that. We have a copper tone keychain that I bought 2 bags of from a baggy wall that cost us about a nickel, and we sell on average one every month at least for $10 to $15. We have the cows, the angels we have heard on high, little cows. And we bought those about 7 years ago, and we bought 400 of them. And they cost us less than $1 each. And we sell them for about $15. And when we get closer to Christmas, we'll probably sell about 20 or 30 of those things. So we've sold about 200 of those things. So many things that we found that we were able to have $1 or less on. That's the only time we like that. You know what? We still have some prison underwear, but I can't find it. I don't know where it is.
It's down in the basement.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yes, I'll pull it out for you.
We'll have to get that back up again. It's not listed right now because I couldn't find it was. Susan says her eBay is down, but her booth is up. That's great. As long as you're looking, and again, that's part of the let's look for other places to sell these things to, right? That's the whole thing about where are you looking at selling these other things at. So I think that realistically, and this is not the exact numbers. So I'm going to show you this, and I'm going to warn you, these are not necessarily real numbers. They're still numbers.
It's a concept. It's to show you the concept.
If you did a $100 item and you bought it for $10, if you sold it on eBay, you'd probably clear 76. If you sold it on Etsy, you might clear 80, unless it's sold through one of those other ads, and then you might only clear 65. If you sold it on Poshmark, you clear maybe 70 because it's $100. It cost you $10. $20 is the price, so you clear 70. If you sold it on Whatnot, you might make 78. So when you look at all these,
the only thing about the eBay and Etsy, those numbers don't include what you pay for shipping for the item. For Poshmark and Whatnot, the buyer is paying the shipping separately.
Yeah.
For eBay and Etsy, we're paying the shipping on those. So they're free shipping.
But if I did a really bad version of that on a $20 item, and look at this, eBay on that same thing, $20, because you're paying that $30, $20 plus tax and shipping. So $4.37 in fees. You paid $5 for it. You're only making 10 on a $20 item. You're only making 12 from Etsy. You're making 11 from Poshmark. You're making 12 from Whatnot. So again, it's just to think about. That means that on a low price item that you pay $5, $10 for, that you sell for $20, you're making 50% of your money is gone in the cost of the item and the cost of all of those fees. Not only the listing fees, but all of the other things that you want to factor into there. So I think the biggest thing to look at in that is that, you really need to be looking at what is your net return. Look at all your costs, look at time, look at all the individual fees. And again, easy to find the fees. Just Google the words. What is the fees for eBay? What are the fees for Etsy? What are the fees for Poshmark? And you'll get a link to all of those things. The shipping supplies, average out $1 on every cost you're going to do. I think I'm going to pay $1 for this. The gas, if you want. And even if you've got, we didn't even have the original cost of items, but also returns. We actually make sure that we don't think about returns or have issues with them, because 25 cents out of every item we sell is the cost of a return. We don't get returns on 95% or 99% of our items. So 25% on every item we sell means we got $100, $200 budget for returns. We did do a video on that. You can take a look at that in our Two Dogs Digs thing. It says this is how to basically give free returns without having to worry about them too much. So those are all the things you really need to think about when you're looking at your fees, what the real cost of reselling is it's not just the cost of the item and the fee that you pay. And when you do think of the fee, you got to remember, what's the fee really going to be costing me? Because you could get hit with a surprise like we did and end up having a $125 item that you end up paying $35 in fees on because you didn't click off the right thing on Etsy.
But you made the sale, so
but we still made the sale.
that.
So yeah, we made $30 profit instead of a $70 profit. So that's the thing. That's the focus of today. It's all about, we want you to think all of the different costs that come into play. We want you to make enough money on these things. So that's just it. If you buy something and you see, and you're at a flea market, you're at a garage sale, you're at a thrift store, and you go, here's a perfect example. We still got a couple of days left in the month for plush. I picked up some plush today. And here's my plush that I picked up today. And what did I do with it? And the reason I picked this plush up was because these are Tomy, that's the company, Pokemon. So there's Eevee, and then where's my other Pokemon one? There's another Pokemon one there. This cost me $4, $3 US. And so when I look at this, I know that the cost of this is $3, $1.50, right? My cost is at $3 or $1.50 for one of them. I know that they list for $25 to $30 and sell for $25 to $30. So in my head, I'm going to say, if it's $25, $5, 20% is going to be the cost I pay to sell it. And I'm going to think about another buck that I have to get for the actual cost. So instead of $1.50 for it, I'm going to think $2.50 is the cost of this. That's the item plus the shipping boxes. So now I got $2.50, I got $5, so $7.50 is going to be all of the fees that when this guy sells, that I'll get when I sell him for $25. So I'll make $17.50 on him. And again, I'm listing in US dollars, so my $17.50 is actually means I'm going to actually clear more than that. I'm going to clear closer to $25 on them. And I got two of them, and that's the reason I picked these up, is because I know I had $40 worth of sales here that wouldn't cost me more than $2.50 each, including all of my boxes or my envelopes and my bubble envelopes and things like that. Another way to look at it is, just as a final sort of summary, is when you're, hopefully if you're doing this, this is income for you and you're providing to your accountant, this is what all my costs are. Those costs should include a portion of your gas, a portion of your car, a portion of your house, your storage locker, all of those things. And you can take all of those and look at an annual cost of all of the things that you're spending on your business. And then if you can sell, you can check and see how much you sell. If you sold 500 items every year, take that cost and divide it by 500 and add that and make sure you're covering that off as well in your total cost of actual reselling. Right, Rick?
Yes.
You're typing something.
I am. I'm asking people to do thumbs up if they enjoy.
Oh, okay. Okay. So hopefully you got a couple of ideas just to rethink, reset your brain. So when you're finding $3 items, you're not trying to sell them for $5. Even on Facebook Marketplace, it's not worth your time and effort. You're trying to make sure you're getting money for them. You're trying to make sure you're covering off all those other costs so that at the end of the day, you don't turn out into one of the Facebook groups I'm in and type this thing that says, how come I only got $63 on this $95 item I sold? And then have to have people go, because you sold it this way and you did this and they did this and this is the cost. So, or how come I only made 40 cents on my show on when I sold all these dollar items on whatnot? Because there's a 30-cent fee, and if you sell something for $1, it means you're paying 55% fees.
All of the platforms will have some sort of transaction statement that you can download and look and see exactly what fees you're being charged.
Every person here, I want you to just take every single person here, just if you're selling on Etsy, go take a look at your finance report. If you're selling on eBay, just click on a couple of things to see what your fees were for that, just to get your head around. Find a low sale price thing, find a higher sale price thing. Hopefully you have a couple. Hopefully you've had two things in May, and you can look at those two things. And again, you might make a little more money when you're considering it that way.
And if you make mistakes, consider it tuition because you've
Yeah.
learned from it.
Next week, it's all about what's sold in May, maybe April, May. We might have to go to 2 months. Adrian will be coming on for sure, but he said
What's
he needs
sold
to
in
do.
the 2000s?
He said he needed to do April and May. Elisa may be back. She might have to do April. I know we're probably going to have to do April and May, but we'll call it what's sold in May. So hopefully we'll see you then, and we will be back with some more fun here at Two Dogs Digs. Well, thanks so much for being here, part of our chatting on a serious subject of the real cost of reselling. Well,
Bye.